Hello, welcome to the AutoMax channel. We are pulling in to Dovenby Hall, home of M Sport.
Sur une épine de droite 20, attention.
Today, we're at M Sport. Lucky for us, we've got this man on his one day off of the year.
How are we doing?
We've managed to drag him out of bed. Did I drag you out of bed?
No, it wasn't too bad. My kids dragged me out of bed.
So we're very lucky to have Rich with us today. Thank you, Rich, for letting us do this. This is big. This is a big deal for us, especially on our little channel. This is really big. We're lucky that we can go for a walk around the M Sport showroom. And there is a couple of Rally1 cars on track at the moment, so we might be able to have a look at those if they come in. That's all right, is it?
Yeah, so we're just...
No secrets going on there?
No, we're just doing our rollouts for Kenya. So the cars will leave here next week, but before they go, obviously, we need to do a couple of checks on them. So they have a little procedure they do, the mechanics drive. They'll just run through that procedure today.
Have you done a Kenya test? Yeah.
No, we're going to do it this week in the forest in Greystoke after the Malcolm Wilson Rally's finished.
All right.
So we're limited on number of test days we can do, but you're allowed one dedicated test site, which we have as Greystoke, and that basically means you can go as many days as you want. So testing for Kenya there doesn't take any from our allocation for the rest of the year.
If you test for Kenya there, obviously that is more of a Rally GB forest. Will you make it Kenya?
Not necessarily. Usually the Cumbrian weather helps us with that.
Yeah.
I think the best thing for us with the lineup we have this year, the young guys, is this is their first time on gravel in the car. Really.
Right,
okay, Greg did last year, but Josh's first time.
Right. That's a big rally for him, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but one with a big opportunity. So we're kind of pushing as much mileage as possible on them just to learn gravel, learn the car, and that will give us the best opportunity. So there's a lot more to be made in Kenya from getting to the end and driving properly at a good speed than worrying too much about setup. So
Wall of Fame?
Yeah, so we've just come into, so this is what we call the MEC, the Evaluation Centre, which is the big project that Malcolm built. He had a dream about Maranello and Ferrari, and then wanted to replicate it in Cumbria one day, which I think everybody thought was mad, but we finally did it. And it started pre-COVID building, and then when COVID happened, it kind of stopped everything. But Malcolm was one of the only ones really to push on and carry on building. And then we got through and got set up and sorted, and that's where we are today. And this is his nod to all the drivers that he's worked with over the years. I know most of them, not all of them. I'm sure between the two of us, we could probably do it.
So Danning, Sordo, Francois Delacour, Marcus Grono, Mickey Biazzo.
See, this is where I'm going to struggle these next couple.
Well, look on the seat. That's definitely Mickey Biazzo. That is Hanu. Thierry Neuville. He started with you, didn't he?
He did,
I remember that.
Remember his first ever test in Greystoke, he ended up going off the road and landed the car over the drainage ditch. No damage, but got his stuck over the drainage ditch.
First test?
First test,
That was embarrassing. Now he's a world champion.
He's done all right since.
Marco Martin. Malcolm himself.
Exactly, quite a hairdo.
Juha. Kankkunen. Everyone knows Colin McRae. Carlos Sainz.
Back with us now
Senior.
as well. Senior and back with us after 20 years.
In the Dakar car.
In the Dakar programme.
Ari. Roger Clark. Petter Solberg. Mr. Loeb. Seb. Ogier. Oit Tanak. I don't know who that guy is. I haven't got a clue who he is. No, that's Alvin Evans. We know him very well. Craig, Jari Matti, and Mikko Hirvonen. Mikko Hirvonen is probably one of the most successful world drivers, isn't he? He was there for a long time. He won a lot of rallies. Nearly won a couple of championships.
Him, Marcus, and Jari were all stalwarts for a big period of time. But I mean, I think it's another recollection when you go through a list like that of how many of the current WRC field have driven here.
I'm going to get rinsed for not remembering who that is. But
it's a good one for the comments.
Yeah, it will be,
I'll get rinsed as well. I think I wasn't born, I'm going to go with. So to come into what will be a future workshop space. So the building was built with no particular intention in mind as to what we might fill it with at the time. It was just to increase the ability of what we are able to do here. So this is basically a carbon copy, but bigger, of the workshop we have over the other side.
Heated floor?
Heated floors, all
That's
polished
really
concrete.
Nice.
These are the 2 Dakar cars that we used last year, not 25, so 24.
So the other ones are still out somewhere, are they? Or?
The other ones, there's some in the workshop which we can go and walk past later, and there's also some are still out there because they just finished Dakar, then went to Abu Dhabi Desert Challenge, and have now gone to South Africa.
So these are exactly the same car?
No, so these were produced by a company in South Africa called Neil Woolridge Motorsport.
Right.
And we bought them, and in conjunction with them, we developed them a little bit more from where they were.
Improved them a bit.
Just tweaked them a little bit. And basically we went to learn Dakar. You know, we had the program from Ford for a long-term program, really well funded, proper program, proper drivers, everything. So really exciting, but we had to learn the event, which we didn't know at all. Best way to learn it is to go and do it.
That's like live testing, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what even drivers. That's why Loeb's struggling, I think, with.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't done it enough. Yeah. Compared to someone like Nani Roma, he's done a lot.
Yeah. So
Peter Hansel and all them, they're just Mr. Dakar.
So Nani, for example, went there and did the whole event with us, and it was a real learning experience for the team to understand what it takes to run the cars, but also the infrastructure you need to run it with it.
Yeah.
And then on the back of that, in parallel to running with that, we were designing an all-new car as well, the actual Raptor Ranger, which is a completely different beast. And then we have a program right through to 27 with that, so it's very exciting.
All right, okay. So there's more to come.
More to come. Upgraded car again next year.
Clothes on, clothes off. So that's just pure Kevlar. Be cool to drive around in that, wouldn't it? You just like.
They're absolute beasts, really. I mean, when you see the Raptor we built now, it's a lot smaller. It's more like a race car than these, which are started a bit as a production car and were beefed up. So
there's a lot going on inside as well. A lot of levers and things.
They're really busy inside. What happens compared to what you see on the outside, but it's so hard to portray what the terrain is like when you're there. The dunes and how steep they are and things is incredible.
That fresh stuff is like.
I know that's why the air intakes are around the top at the back. Because all the sand and everything, you've got the snorkel, but you've also got your air intake for the engine back there.
Bearings, it hammers the bearings, I bet.
Yeah, that's the big thing they're changing most days. But it's very different to rally because you don't have any allotted service time. Like when they finish the stage, as long as they finish the special stage element, the next day you've got until
the rally starts. Yeah, like out control basically.
Yeah, so you've got all night to do stuff.
Stripped Bentley.
Stripped Bentley, work in progress.
Work in progress. What project?
It'll be rebuilt for a customer, that one eventually. At the moment, the GT3 program's hardly ended post-COVID. Yeah. So we still have all the equipment and the cars and the parts. So there is still some customers running occasionally in private GT3s and things. So we still engineer and have parts look after that, but not a current project for today.
So Matthew was doing a lot with that, wasn't he?
Matthew was team manager for that.
Yeah,
and he's now moved on to team manager for Dakar project.
Oh, has he? Yeah.
So he looks after Dakar, I look after Rally, and then we all kind of involved in the general business.
Puma front end?
Puma front end. So we were struggling a little bit with having availability of cars. We have about 12 cars in total.
Okay.
And they're always in a state of rebuild on event or being used elsewhere.
So is that one reason for that? Because it's a space frame car, everything is bespoke on these modern Rally 1 cars, aren't they?
Yeah.
When you had, we'll see them in a bit, when you had the more car-derived cars that were a body shell, you probably had more of those, did you? Because they were easy to build?
Yeah, so we had probably 20 to 30 of your 2017 cars, and then even more of your 2015 cars, which were more production-based.
Because the 2017 car was quite a step
still
forward, wasn't it?
Step forward, but it was still production chassis.
Right, yeah.
But then when you get to space frame, we're down to about 11 or 12 because we haven't sold any really, which is an issue.
It's a tricky thing to sell, isn't it, really?
It's an issue for us, not necessarily the other manufacturers, the OEMs who don't need to sell it, but it's always been a business model for M-Sport, so it's hard when we're not selling. So we're actually now talking about the next set of regulations for Rally and what they do, and I think they'll need to remain space frame because no manufacturer has the same shape car anymore. No. And the space frame gives you freedom. But
you
we
can
need
put
to
anything on it.
Exactly. And we need to find a way to reduce the labour intensiveness of building the space frame. That's where the space frame is quite simple when you look at it. Right. It's a technical space frame, but actually what it is just a load of tubes welded together. Yeah. But when you add in labour to do it, it soon becomes very expensive. So
do you have a jig and then it just goes all, and you tack it all up?
Yeah. But the Dakar one, for example, is so complex. It's like 3-4 weeks of 3-4 people to build that. But we built this because, like I say, we don't have a lot of car availability, and we often have younger drivers in the team.
Yeah.
And we built it as a training rig, basically, for them to change suspension components, understand where sensors and looms and all this plug in and that kind of stuff, so that we can get them to practice a little bit. Because when you're on the rallies, we can't help them.
No.
When they're out.
You got a phone call. That's about it, isn't it? You see them taking the air filter off a lot.
Air filters, things like that, and suspension dampers you can put on, take off.
Yeah.
So it's quite a useful training aid. To a point, you know, when you're in a rally, it's very different with all the mud and the heat and everything.
Yeah.
But it's a good starting point for them.
Oh yeah, definitely. You need to know. I reckon that separates drivers sometimes.
The best.
Because Elvin was always good at that, wasn't
he? The amount of rallies Elvin's got himself to the end of that people don't know about because he's such a good mechanic.
I remember he sent me a picture of Finland.
2017-16 when he broke the wishbone.
And those two snap-on spanners holding the wishbone together.
First stage, full day, no service all day.
Yeah.
And he snapped the wishbone in half, and he Jubilee clipped a snap-on spanner on it and still finished the day.
Still finished, yeah.
But there's not many people that would have done that.
They wouldn't think that, because he's done a lot in the workshop and stuff. And it's at home and
it's the ability to come up with these ideas of how to fix something with only what you've got, which he's very good at. Tanak's very good at it.
Dakar boys need to know that as well, don't they, really?
Yeah,
because
it's
you're
a
stuck
huge
in the middle of nowhere.
Huge part of it. Base engines for Rally 2.
So are they standard?
Yeah, standard engines. But basically when Ford stopped building Fiesta, they obviously stopped building engines as well. So we had to preempt and pre-order to see us through the remainder of the regulation set for Rally 2.
There's plenty there anyway.
Plenty there. We'll get through them eventually.
All the hybrid stuff. Will that be disposed of eventually, or?
It will be. Yeah, sadly we have very little time to react to anything.
Yeah.
So hybrid was only taken out at the end of last year, and then we obviously had full focus on putting the car back to non-hybrid. Yeah. So we've just stored everything here. That's the chargers.
So the modern car now, so where the batteries were, and what's
a ballast block?
You got a block.
Yeah.
What, the equivalent to a battery?
Yeah.
So they're the same weight.
We've reduced the weight of the car by 50 kilos, I think it was, or maybe 80 kilos, because in some ways there's no point in carrying extra weight if you don't need to. It's just making more weight in an accident, more inertia.
More travelling speed.
So we altered the engine restrictor as well, size, to balance it all up. FIA have a limit of what they want as kilogram per horsepower. So we matched that with the car, basically. The car's a lot more simpler now, which is good. I liked hybrid. I thought it was relevant to the modern day world. But just in motorsport, it's very difficult with cost. The costs, after the rallycross incident they had with Loeb's, the team Loeb was driving with the fires.
The Lanciers.
They massively changed safety protocols, and sadly it meant the costs overnight
just escalated
almost 10 times what we were expecting. So all the teams were like, we can't justify that. We had no choice, sadly.
We'll have a look at a modern car after when it comes back in, hopefully. So, Polaris.
Yeah, these things are quite interesting.
AZR. Do you know what, I've always fancied to go, do you know what, I would like to do flipping Dakar in one of them. That would be flipping, that would be a challenge, wouldn't it?
They are amazing. What they can do is incredible. I personally think this could be, a modified version of this could be the answer to the problems we have at the moment in rally with not having an entry-level vehicle. Because
they're bringing them cross carts in now, aren't
cross carts are in, but this is two-seater. You can still co-drive, you still do pace notes. You would make the suspension a little bit more suitable to forest, but you're not going to break anything. You're not going to go through tyres.
Make a little car body for it as well, couldn't you?
You're not going to.
You need a windscreen.
Your running costs for the year are going to be almost nothing because they're bomb-proof. They're fast. They teach you a lot of things, and their entry-level cost. They come with pretty much everything you need in a Wanner. The biggest problem we have rally entry-level now is the cost of the base car. To buy a base car from the showroom is over 20 grand. Before you put 10 grand's worth of mandatory kit in, strip it and all the labour to do that. You know, that's why you're at £45,000-50,000 for a base car. It's not because people are making too much profit, it's because that's what all the mandatory requirements are. And people look back at Fiesta ST days when it was £14,000-15,000.
Well,
it was.
You thought that was expensive then.
Exactly, and that's what I tried to say. I don't think anything's changed. I think just inflation and the modern world has got to level.
It's always been expensive, isn't it?
But there is now other options to come in lower, and if you enjoy that and single make series that, then you could go up to Rally 4, 3, 2, 1, etc. So, but quite interesting.
So that could be what you call a Millener buggy.
If you do, you heard it here first.
So next one is a GI Yaris, and this is yours.
It is,
We might have to just put Ford on the top, on the front there.
Yeah, I had a few comments, obviously, about having a Toyota over a Ford, but I just, I grew up in watching rallying and loving road-going rally cars, and this is the latest version.
It's the latest homologation car, isn't it? It's the only homologation car at the moment,
and
really.
It is an incredible car, and this is Seb Ogier limited edition. So, you know, for me, it's quite special to get something like that because basically I asked Seb himself if he could get me one when I saw they were going to be advertised because they're very few and far between. The Calais one wasn't quite for me. That was a bit too wild for me. But obviously I have an affiliation with Seb in terms of when he was with us in 17 and 18, and we still chat. And
so the cars are a bit like the characters.
In
a way. Like, one's got big hair.
100%.
One of them's quite
quite relaxed. So it's basically different paint, different wheels, the little French flag tributes, the rear spoiler. There's a couple of drift modes and different modes inside. Other than that, it's pretty much a standard Yaris. I was lucky enough to know him. He got me one. You know, I learned a lot as well about how they treat the customers and how they look after customers on these kind of special editions. So when you pick it up, you get a set of Seb's driving gloves signed. You got the opportunity to have your name on the roof in Rally Finland on the car. So I thought maybe it was pushing it to put my own name on it. So I put my son's name on it.
All right,
and Seb won the rally, which was even better. So then I asked the lads at Toyota, could I have the cutout of the vinyl? So I've got that. Oh, nice. So I've got like a nice little story with it, some pictures with Seb.
That paint just for this?
Yeah. And
carbon roof?
Carbon roof.
The circuit, is it a circuit?
They're all the same now, the Gen 2 ones.
Ah, right, okay.
And then the other thing they gave you, which I wasn't expecting at all, was they give you a free day's ice driving in Finland at UR Kankanen's Ice School. Did that last week, and that was great fun. It was amazing. I'd driven on snow once before, but not in a road car.
Right.
And what they're capable of is...
Studded tyres, I think.
It was 3mm studs, so studded, but not a lot of grip.
Yeah, like a higher car, basically.
Yeah, but what a great day out that was. So there's a load of like quite cool stuff on there. There's a little Maurizio signature, which is the pseudonym that Akio Toyoda uses for himself. In Japan, he came up to me in Japan. He said, "Thank you very much for buying a Yaris." I was like, "That's quite incredible." So and a nice
respect, isn't it?
I had to get a new number plate for a new car.
Yeah, no, it's a good number plate.
I asked him to send me the list of number plates you could get because there might be something related to me. And then it got me thinking. I thought, I'll just go on DVLA and have a look. And I was like, what could I get? And I was like, looked for my own initials, couldn't find anything. Then thought, I wonder if there's a GR, which there was. And then I was like, I wonder if Seb, that would be pretty funny. There was. And then I was like, what's left? And then number-wise, and I'm thinking, hang on, Seb's number's 17 now. Wonder if there's GR177, and there you go, there was.
That is the perfect plate for that.
So
250 quid later.
Yeah, well, I think it was 299. There was reason behind it. So for me, it's just something really nice.
No, it is nice.
It's currently here while I sort a garage out, but Malcolm's rent isn't too bad at the minute. But it will disappear before long.
Classic Range Rover. I'm not a Land Rover man, and I'll probably say that on some other videos in the future. But yeah, I quite like classic. That's all right.
I think people love investments in cars that are original now as well. And that's what I've always done with my cars, RS and things I've had. Never change anything on it because I think the factories and the OEMs are pretty good at what they do. So a nice example.
Right, back to the proper stuff.
Back on to real competition cars.
So this is 2022 Rally 1. It's when Seb Loeb came back and did the rally.
So this is a bit of a special one, really. That kind of Malcolm, myself, were obviously thinking about new regulations. M Sport pretty much won on their debut on all new regulations.
Yeah, so was this
was the first year of the new regulations, and we had a partnership with Red Bull again. We had a bit of a chat over a coffee and a bit of a crazy idea. I wonder if Loeb would want to do it. Yeah. Because he wasn't driving anywhere at the time. So we spoke with Red Bull, we spoke with Seb, and he was like, yeah, I'd be up for that.
He probably just come off the back of Dakar, did he?
Yeah. He flew back from Dakar and then did this.
Yeah.
And
test?
Very quick test. Yeah. And didn't change much at all, just got used to the car. And then we thought, wow, this is amazing in itself. And then went on to win the rally on the last couple of stages.
6-stage wins, something like that?
Yeah, and then Seb Ogier had a puncture with 2 stages to go. We inherited the lead and then kept it, and it was like a fairy tale win, really. Never had Seb in the team before.
No.
Malcolm tried to sign him before he went to Citroën, but it didn't work.
Right.
So he'd always wanted to have him in the team. Yeah. And then to get him in and to win on his debut with us was incredible. And then he did 4 more rallies that year, I think, or 4 in total. And he was leading every single one. Sadly, he had a couple of accidents. We had a couple of mechanical issues. So we never got another win. But, this was the car that he used then. So quite a special one, a really good memory.
Good one to keep.
Yeah, probably one of my favourite ones. First win for me as a team principal as such in that role.
Yeah. So there's a lot of history in that then for you guys.
Yeah. So the purple livery, which everyone seems to like. That was.
If you want to know what that is.
Yeah, that wasn't an aero feature. That was.
Yeah.
So basically, with hybrid, this was a hybrid generation car. Obviously, when we were running hybrid, so you had to put that on the roof when you'd left the car alone, for basically showing that it was safe.
So green, if that's on it, it's safe to touch.
Yeah, and if it's red,
if that
doesn't mean it's live, but it means we're working on the system.
You're working on it, so don't touch it, just in case.
Yeah, because there were lights on the side. There's small lights in the rear window.
If in an accident, they would come on, wouldn't they?
They would, and there's also some blue lights on the front which come on in impact, over a certain impact, and the lights on the side would change from a green if it was all good to a red if it was unsafe.
So was this the year when Adrian flew off the mountain?
Yeah.
So that car would have turned red after that?
It didn't.
It didn't? No? So it didn't damage the...
No, hybrid was fine.
Hybrid was fine.
The rest of the car was not fine.
We'll cue just a clip of that, because it is... That and Tanak's crash a couple of years before is probably the biggest accident I've seen in modern WRC.
I still don't think Adrian's watched the accident.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't want to watch it.
No?
No.
It looks like a remote control car.
I think he watched it. He watched it for the first time when we did our documentary, our YouTube documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Shameless plug there, but anyone who wants to watch that, More Than Machine, I guarantee a good watch.
More Than Machine is a really good watch.
After you've watched this video,
them all.
After you've watched
I'm not sure about the guy who's involved with it, Mike Chen. Don't know about him. So we reckon 2002 Safari winning car. It's not there is another car, 99 car, which that was a debut win, wasn't it? Is that here?
Yeah, that's in the main hall.
Can we have a look at that later?
Yeah.
I've got some questions about that. But so this is joystick, gear stick?
Yeah.
Because I used to work on a couple of these with Jeff Jones, who he's been mentioned before. And yeah, they were joystick, the gear stick was just a little switch.
Yeah.
That was
like
quite
a rocker
cool.
switch, because originally it was a paddle, like a mechanical shift.
Mechanical one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Then a switch, and then it went, when you did the shape after this with the bigger bumpers and that went on to paddle then, didn't it?
Yeah. And then we went back because technology exists, it's relatively easy to put paddle shift in, but one of the points I kept raising was, for me, watching the in-car became very boring, because you weren't really seeing any action, or you couldn't tell so much if someone was having a moment. And I think it just looks, we have to think about the sport in more of a show as well as just the technical aspect.
It is it's entertainment.
And watching someone fighting a car is what makes it real and look good. In Formula One now, where you watch, it's so precise, there isn't much going on. No. So having a physical gear lever was something we wanted to bring back.
Yeah, that is definitely true. So this car, is this a customer car, or is this one of yours?
So it's a private collection. It's an owner of a private collection that's kind of based here at the minute. So some of the Safari mods, obviously the snorkel, the lights in the wing mirrors, because back in this time they were running the stages on open roads, which is mental if you think about it.
So so a lot of that stuff, the lights, were for animals and humans.
Animals and humans, basically. And each car had a helicopter with it as a spotter. And would fly in front of the car or above the car to tell them what was coming, animals or buses or whatever, which in today's safety world we wouldn't be doing, and we don't do, and it got out of hand in terms of cost, because helicopter for every car, it was just
sometimes
crazy.
The heli would go down, wouldn't it, which is a bigger risk.
Yeah, so we really had to bring it back for what we do now in Safari. But
so not for seeing where you're going, but for animals and humans.
Warning others.
Warning other people,
at quite a speed.
So a lot of these would have had a bar, wouldn't they?
The 99 car has a bar.
Yeah, a roo bar or a bung bar, they call it, because that's what the noise that things bounce off it make. Road RS.
Yeah, Mark II. So
electric green, signal green, something like
that. Still fetching. The RS brand is still special to Ford, even though we're not making any at the moment. It's still a great brand. So
I'll admit on camera that I love all racing. I don't know a hell of a lot about the Bentleys, but
I don't know much more either, because Matthew, Malcolm's son, looks after the whole Bentley project. Obviously, it was a great project to have, a big, well-known, what was British brand with a British team. It was really exciting to get such a thing, and they fell in love with this facility and the national country estate, British estate type thing, and it all fitted with their brand.
Fits in nice,
and the GT3 program ended up coming here, which was a fantastic few years. Sadly, they changed their direction post-COVID.
Yeah.
So there is still some Bentleys running with customers, and we did some modifications to some hill climb variants and things like that. There's a few more in the showroom, we'll see, but it was quite a big challenge engineering-wise because the base car was so big and so heavy. To get it down to minimum weight for GT
was a big car.
Was a big
challenge. This is a lot lighter than the original car, isn't it? The race car.
Yeah. Christian Loriot was in charge of that one.
He knows what he's doing. He did the Focus, didn't he?
He did the Focus. No, Chris Williams did the 22 car. Christian did 2003 onwards up until 2015, I think it was, something like that.
So he was in charge of the boost bumper.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
the boost bumper is a bit.
That's another story for another video.
There's another story. You haven't got that an RS03, have you?
We haven't got one of them, and they're one of the nicest looking cars. But it was quite the tweak, and then the FIA banned it fairly quickly.
Were you involved then?
No, that was 3 years before
When did you come in?
2006, end of 2006, start of 2007.
Okay, on the World Rally team or?
No, I packing parts.
All right, so proper. You started right at the bottom, worked your way up.
Yeah, and then a year after I started, the girl Kira that was running the ST Championship left, and I took that on that role, and that's when the same year that like Craig and Elvin and various others started.
The ST 150
Challenge, effectively. UK and
A
Ireland.
lot of them
I looked after UK and Ireland. I've grown. They've done their thing. I've done my thing, and we're still all going at the top. So it's quite nice in some ways to follow them all through and all see what journeys we've managed to make out of where we started. So 2009 Focus. What surprises me about these is the size of the things. You know, how simple they are inside compared to what we have now.
Rally cars have gone through like an evolution, haven't they, where they've gone really road car, then they've come to resemble road car, and then they've gone to what they are now, which is over there, which we won't have a look at that one, we'll have a look at another one. But yeah, this is a Mikko Hirvonen car. Finland 09, won it. So the engine in this,
2 litre.
2 litre turbo. Pipo engine, these, weren't they?
We did.
So Pipo are a French, aren't they? French engine builder. They built a lot of racing, Pipo motor, haven't they?
And now the engine department is one of the busiest departments.
Your
here.
department,
yeah. So we do engines for WRC, for Dakar, with some support from Ford. We do the GT3 engine for their Mustang. We do British touring car, all the Rally 2 engines here. So we're doing, a lot of projects engine-wise. Is one of the busiest departments.
Do we have a look in that engine? I saw the pins open. That's a no-no. That is leaving a pin open.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that happened to Mikko. Rally GB. The bonnet came up, and I think he just ripped it off, didn't he?
Yep.
Or it probably broke the carbon hinge.
Yeah, carbon hinge.
And then he got out. I think it was up on Epping somewhere. I think one of those stages, and he just ripped the bonnet off. That was a championship loss.
Championship loss. Yeah, engine went on that because damaged the cooling system, and then the engine fried, and then Loeb just had to drive round.
Is that what broke the pins then? And then it.
Loeb had a car accident, and
he had road section accident. I remember that.
He didn't finish the rally, I don't think either. But Mikko had retired because the engine failed, and then he inherited the championship.
So he would have won the championship otherwise.
That was a tough one. I was there that year. I remember that. Yeah, they had all sorts of different stuff back then. This age of car had very little cost cap, nothing, and it was crazy cost by the end. We had active ride-out suspension at one point, 4 or 5 different fan specs for different rallies, different wiper specs. The clutch was best part of £15,000 on these because they were hydraulic clutches that you could change 2-3 minutes. On the inside of the wheel arch. It just bonkers money. And at a time when the championship was able to sustain that, but then it became other manufacturers
the might
left.
of Citroën, like they were dominating as well, weren't they? But this was a championship. You won the constructors with this car, didn't you?
But then when that always burns itself out eventually. And then we knew that we had to bring the cost back again, which is again what we're going through at the moment. 22 cars are great, but they're a bit too expensive, so we need to bring it back again. But it's a cycle. You start at a sensible set of regulations, it gets popular, it goes up, and then you realise you have to reset when some manufacturers go and do something else. So it's all being part of that cycle. So I'm not negative about the state of rallying like others are. I think we're just in the part of the cycle where hopefully we go back up again now.
Like Group B, that got to that point, didn't it?
There you go. It went to
doing a Mikko there.
Went to Group B and then went back to Group A, which is basically
and everyone was like,
cars. This is rubbish. And then it grew into WRC again, and then went crazy
again.
Amazing.
Ford GT, customer car, but there's more of those in there, so
I think we've probably got the biggest collection in the UK at the moment.
We'll skip past that one. Now
everybody knows these.
Everyone knows these. These are like the flipping rally hippos. They're big, strong.
Yeah, I mean, Ford didn't have a four-wheel drive variant recce car at the time.
So just before this, you used the Freelanders, didn't you?
Yeah.
You got any of them?
No.
I know there's one of them.
And I think there's a little bit before my time, but I think obviously the sport was developing as well, and people were realising recce's more important, and you know, eventually things like video cameras and GoPros and that were coming along. So it's always been developing, and if you look back now, a Freelander would not be what you want a recce in.
No.
And this was kind of the next logical step, but it needed to be four-wheel drive. Ford didn't have really anything suitable, but Volvo were part of the group, so they managed to get the Volvos.
And you ran these for a long time,
until 2006. End of 2016, when Seb signed in 2017, he said, "Look, Malcolm, I'm sorry, I'm not driving a Volvo."
You're not driving one of them.
So that was just in line with the RS Focus.
Yeah.
So we swapped to them
so
instead.
Ford and Volvo were doing stuff together then, weren't they?
Previously, yeah. And then they.
So these had a lot of components off a Focus. Did they have some, or were they? Because they had Rigers on them, didn't they?
They did have Rigers, yeah. They weren't Focus stuff, but it was still using people that were involved with the Focus.
They were built here, were they?
Yeah.
All right. So everything's bespoke on this.
Basically, yeah. A lot of the you know, all of the protection and the cages. I'm sure cages were probably done elsewhere, but they were maintained and looked after here for many years. And we had a fleet of probably 20.
Yeah.
Between Europe and long haul, all our long haul stuff going containers.
So in these seats, in a lot of these, there's a lot of history of different drivers, lots of people, lots of stories.
Sadly, the bit that killed it off was the Haldex system would get too hot, and it was actually quite reliable.
Yeah.
But you just couldn't get bits for it, and electronics the same.
Yeah.
You just couldn't get the bits. So then, like I say, luckily the RS Focus came along. We swapped over to that.
Yeah.
But they were quite expensive for what they are, so we actually run a combination of RSs, and we run as a 2-litre Cougar diesel four-wheel drive.
Okay, yeah, I've seen that.
Which is the
That'll
other
be a Safari one, won't it?
We'd use the Focuses all year round,
and
we tend to give the Rally1 guys Focuses and the Rally2 guys Cougars.
Yeah. You used to let these out as a course car and Rally GB, so a lot of people would have seen these going around. It sounds like an Audi Quattro, basically. Yeah. 5-cylinder, turbocharged. Like when that came through, you're like, bloody hell, this doesn't sound like anything I'm used to. And then two lads would come around in this, doing the course car. But yeah, I remember someone sent me a list of when you had these for sale, and there was a list, and they had the history next to them, and you could buy them. And there was some at the bottom. At the time, I wasn't in a position to buy one, but there was some at the bottom that had damage and things, and I was thinking, oh, I'll maybe get one of them. But I think I missed that boat.
I think you've got too many projects.
I've got way too many, yeah, don't need any more.
This is what they call the burger van.
So what era? This is Focus era, isn't it?
Yeah, and these were basically our service vehicles. Just before my time, really. When I was here, we were using these for shakedowns, but it was all built in one service vehicle.
Yeah.
And with the added ability to put it in a shipping container.
So that'll fit in a shipping container, and you can ship it.
It's tight.
You want.
I think you had to climb out the windows.
Oh yeah.
But it was, you know, when you're spending all that money to go and do something away from Europe or UK, you want to know that you've got the right vehicle with all the right tools, everything, you know, because remote servicing and servicing during a rally was all what it was about then. It's not the same now, but you were following the cars around all the time, so you needed to have a quick option.
Yeah,
they used to have the jacks and things.
The mechanics loved those days as well. At the time, all the mechanics would be going, "Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this?" But then when they got home and they were sat down at Christmas after the season, they'd be going, "Remember that time we were out in Kenya, or we were out in so and so, and we were in the middle of nowhere fixing the car on the side of the road." I think like that's all gone really now.
It had to change because it was just unsustainable.
Yeah. Next part of the M Sport collection is this lovely showroom. So this is reasonably new, isn't it?
Yeah, it was built along with the facility, but this was kind of Malcolm's vision of, you know, this is the halo part of the project. You come in, you drive down the drive, and the first thing you see is a well-lit up showroom with all these cars in, and there's a turntable in the middle. So the idea is that if people are collecting special cars or anything, they can drive in and collect it from here.
Yeah.
And also, if other people, other manufacturers want to come in and use the facility, we did a car launch for BYD here, and they emptied the entire showroom, put all their vehicles in, used the track for kind of media rides.
Right, yeah.
So we've got everything, you know. I mean, I think the biggest challenge for us is the location. Cumbria is obviously...
It's out of the way. We were talking about that. You don't go through Cumbria, do you?
No.
You have to go to it.
But once you get people here, which is the hardest challenge, they fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And it's
very much like Wales.
Yes.
It's the same kind of scenery, same kind of villages and things.
So, it's a nice facility.
This is going to be packed later on as well, because scrutineering is going to be here for the Malcolm Wilson Rally, which Rich is actually doing. What are you using?
Trying to do.
So what are you using?
I'm using a little R2T Fiesta, so the turbocharged Fiesta.
One,
not the very latest, the one before, not the Rally 4, the previous version. So that's more than enough fun for me.
Yeah, yeah. You like the front wheel drive, don't you?
I never really driven rear wheel drive. It wasn't a thing when I was growing up. So I do enjoy that. I would love to do a few more, but it's difficult with kids and the job.
And your job is like you're not in the country very often.
No, so I have to balance about being at home versus playing.
So let's have a look at. This is the road car section, so we'll have a look at these first. So this is one question I've been meaning to ask. When Malcolm went on his own, Escort Cosworth was really the first car he built for Malcolm Wilson Motorsport, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So is this anything to do with that, or is it just a road car that he's collected and bought?
I believe it was part of his kind of agreement when he was driving with them that he got the
to keep
Cosworth
one.
and he
Right, so it is a period car.
It's a genuine car, yeah.
So he was the famous Cosworth was the Michelin Pilot one, which he won the British Championship in.
Yeah.
Him and Stephen Finlay drove the other one, and a few other people I think drove it. But that was big era for Malcolm, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think this is still a very iconic car, and the value of these and the Sierra going up at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that the used car value is quite interesting. I think these kind of cars are on the up.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely think it's people around our age that have become successful and have the money to be able to go and
get one.
Toys.
Yeah.
They look back on their childhood or younger. What did I want?
Yeah.
And there's a real balance of when to sell these kind of cars, because if you miss the boat, the value goes back down again because your audience and the people that want it is smaller and smaller. So,
which I think is where the Sierra RS500 and the Cosworths and things, I think Fords will never lose value because people love them, but that is probably now more desirable than that.
Yeah, one of these made about was it 200, at least 250,000 at a sale, a Silverstone sale, and then now they're making 125. Yeah. So there was this period where you absolutely went for it.
Just gone over that hill.
But then there was I think last week I saw a Silverstone auctions at Race Retro for Escorts, and they were like 80 to 90,000. So they're kind of climbing a lot for real low mileage bespoke ones.
You get and drive one of them now. Not hair-raising car, is it now? It was.
I don't think Malcolm will ever sell these, but it's at some point there's a car there with Malcolm's name to it as well, which adds to the value and adds to the specialness.
So is this a car that he's bought, or was this something to do with?
I don't know if he owned how he got that one, to be honest. But again, these are all
good number plates.
He's got many stories about driving these back in the day.
Now this car needs just a little bit of talking about, because this. So I'm
going to leave this to you because you're more of an expert on this.
Do I know more about this?
Yeah, I think you do.
So this is an RS 1700T. So this was meant to be Ford's Group B rally car. Then they realised that Audi brought the Quattro out, so they canned this because this was rear-wheel drive. This is a transaxle, a bit like a Porsche, wasn't it? Engine in the front, gearbox in the back. So it would have been a really good tarmac car of the period, a bit like the Lancia 037 kind of thing. It would have competed with that, but they canned it. This is the only road version, isn't it? So they didn't make any others. This was the only road version. Is that original paint? Would they?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I've never seen that Ford paint before.
It was, I believe it may have been in South Africa at one point, or...
Yeah, because Malcolm went out to South Africa to do the South African Championship in the RS 1700T, and this was his road car at the time, wasn't it? That they gave him?
I think there was a couple of... I don't actually know too much, but I imagine they had to build some for homologation purposes and things like that.
Yeah. But it was short-lived. You won't see another one of those. Very unlikely. There's a couple of rally cars about in the UK. But you won't see, that's basically a prototype road car, which is really ultra rare. So that engine then, the 1700T BDT engine, that went into the RS200 then, didn't it? Which Malcolm, he drove a RS200 for a bit, didn't he?
Yeah.
He needs one of them in here.
He does.
That would look good.
He doesn't actually have a collection of rally cars, really. No. His own rally cars, which would be nice to get, but he's more into his tractors and things at the minute.
Is he?
Which is good. I like my tractors as well, so...
So this is his latest car, yeah?
This is his latest purchase, yeah. Which,
RS2000 with the nose cone, droop snoot as they call it. So this was Henry Ford's senior, his personal car.
On a visit to the UK, basically, Ford UK or Ford of Britain built this special edition for him with the colour he wanted, and I think it's the only one with an automatic transmission.
It's an automatic Ford RS2000. That is very rare. Probably horrible to drive as well.
But it came up for auction, and Malcolm saw it. And honestly, Malcolm's life has been Ford.
Yeah, well, this is where it would have started. Mark 1s, Mark 2s would have been where it started for him.
And, although the business has grown and we have more marks and we've done jobs for other OEMs, his heart is still with Ford. And that just goes. It's proven by the fact that something like this is just a piece of the history of Ford's history, and Malcolm's affiliation to them.
I like the self-tappers in the front headlight there. That's Dagenham technology, that is. We actually met Malcolm this morning. He was very impressed with my jacket, with the famous roll jacket. Right, back onto
stuff I know a bit more about.
Yeah. So, when did you become team principal?
After Seb left, so 2019.
So just after this.
Yeah.
But so you must have done a good job here.
Well, no, I think Malcolm did a good job, and then he probably thought, right, Seb's left. We're going to struggle to win.
Oh yeah.
You can do it now.
So you
and
can
then it's your problem if we're not winning. But I'm still going, so it can't be too bad. But this is, again, special memories. This is Seb's championship winning car from 2017.
Yeah.
Okay, it did events in 18 as well, but this is the Monte Carlo car from 18. But also
so this was just before the hybrid era. The era. This was they call it 2017 era, don't they?
Yeah.
Elvin won GB in the DMAC.
Yeah, GB was probably the best. The two, obviously, the Australia where we won the championship for a second time was really incredible. But GB, when we won in 17, was mega because every car that crossed the line, it won something else. So Seb crossed the line and won the championship, Elvin crossed the line and won the rally, and Oit crossed the line and we won the manufacturers.
So that was a big party, that.
Big party in our home event in Wales, in the UK, and that was really special. So
because I was doing end of stage interviews on that one it wasn't for telly, it was for like the app kind of thing. So we were at Brennig. We were at the stage before Brennig, so finished there. I ran across the road then into Brennig just as Elvin was coming down over the hill, and then everyone swamped him.
Yeah, it was a great.
And then in Llandudno, then that's where everyone was. You were probably in Llandudno, were you?
I was back in the service park at that point. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then we drove straight down.
You were
to
in
the
D-side.
finish. So we were in D-side and then drove straight to Llandudno. But that was a special year. But these cars were, for me, these are really nice looking cars as well.
Yeah.
They were what rally cars came back to, looking like a production car, but rally car.
But beefed up, yeah. Your favourite?
One of.
Yeah.
I do like the Puma as well. Probably the 2017 Tarmac. 2017 does look amazing, but you can't beat the speed of the current cars and the downforce, and the videos you see now are unbelievable.
That's the thing, the downforce is making a hell of a difference now, isn't it? It's like, when we look at something, I know the Fiestas have got a lot of downforce on them, but compared to the modern cars, it's nothing like that, is it?
Incredible what you could get out of them.
Bentley?
Yeah, this was the Bathurst winning car.
So that's
quite a special car for the Bentley team.
Yeah.
And that was the last year of the factory effort, so that was...
These sound awesome when they do. It sounds completely different to most of the other cars on the track. This has its own sound, like a really deep, almost like an old aeroplane, doesn't it? It sounds like...
And they're huge.
Oh yeah, they take over the track, don't they?
So that was Gen 2, and this was Gen 1.
So this is the first one ever built?
First one we built, yeah.
First like chassis, test car or...
Yeah. But the biggest challenge was the weight out of these things.
Taking the weight out,
all these doors are single skin, carbon fibre.
Because the cars you'd have been up against were Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Aston Martins, Pro-Drive Aston Martins.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge in itself to go... To get one of these and go as a team that hasn't been racing these, and then go and win, that's a big achievement, isn't it? That's why you kept it, really.
We had a Audi and R8 for a year to learn again, like we said earlier with the Dakar. And we did races as well because it was a new discipline for us then. We'd never done racing, so we learned kind of quietly in the background, a bit like what Volkswagen did when they had the Skoda S2000 with Ogier before they came with the Rally1 car. Yeah. Learning the trade and then building the car at the same time and coming in. So. It was a big journey, but it was really interesting bit to be part of. That was air jacks.
Air jack, sticking it. You have to jack up your car at home. You have to go in the boot and take your jack out and jack it up on the sill. Well, with this, you just put an airline in there, and then the whole thing just comes up on its feet. That's what that is.
I mean, pit stops we'd never done. So it
was
you'd
have to practice all that.
Stuff. We built a dolly for a rolling chassis pit stop practice.
Crew, genuine parts, not far from us. That hour away.
And then the rest of the GT collection.
So, So we've got these are all Ford GTs, mostly customer cars. So is Malcolm is he a distributor for Ford GT?
No,
or do people just
it would look like it was.
Yeah.
These are actually private cars that have been bought through Ford and ended up here for storage type thing. So again, this is a customer that owns this one. This is the carbon edition.
Yeah, liquid carbon, I think they call that,
so
don't they?
Everything is just
Everything's
still base carbon wheels. But then the rest are owned by either Malcolm or other private customers.
Are you allowed to say who?
The front one is a certain world champion.
So a certain world champion rally driver.
Yeah.
That's all we'll say.
Which I've had a ride around with him in that.
Yeah. He's not fussed about, you know, if I've got a car, I'd want it at home to use it. But I suppose
he doesn't have a lot of time either. He does come and use it occasionally and wants to take it and keep it in the summer and things. But
I suppose it's there. He's got it. It's an investment. It's safe. It's dry. It's not deteriorating.
It's a lovely thing. These are Malcolm's. These ones, latest gen ones and the previous gen. I mean, this one for me, this car from the side and the back, just the shape and everything is just.
They are an awesome looking thing, aren't they? And they still look similar to what a Ford GT40 would be.
Yeah, I love this colour. I think the silhouette and everything, they're nicer for me than a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. You know, I just.
Is that are you a bit biased?
No, actually no. I just think what they look like.
They are a cool thing. Is that active? The spoiler.
Yeah.
So that normally down, and then it'll. So do they park with them? Do they just go up automatically, or they?
No, I think there was a recommendation to leave them with them up.
Right.
Initially, there was a couple of hydraulic issues with them and stuff.
So that is the GT40, Ford GT when like 2003, something like that, when they relaunched it.
Which is a very different beast to the latest one. But,
is it?
You know.
So these are V6 turbo, and that's V8, is it?
Good question.
Yeah, we'll leave that for people to comment on.
Yeah, my knowledge isn't good on everything.
Wonder if there's a wet belt on these.
This
is your bread and butter at one point.
This is what made the company into kind of what it is in terms of customer rallying. So this was the last
R5
biggest set of regulation change for customer rally cars to make one affordable, cost-capped car globally available, globally recognised, and called R5 back in the day, which has changed to Rally 2 now, because they had R5 was faster and better than Rally 4. It was all a bit out of proportion, so that's when they changed the pyramid around to one fastest, 5 slowest, effectively. So this was the start of Rally 2.
Yeah.
And this is our launch vehicle.
So this was the last. Sorry, did you say last one? The first one built. Yeah.
And we've sold
so how many of those?
The best part of 400 of the two variations. You know, Skoda are up to probably nearly 800,000 Skodas, I think, and
because
30, 40 Toyotas.
There's a lot of these around, isn't there? I mean, they've kind of dwindled off a bit, and they're probably in sheds and places all around the place. But there was a lot of these rallying.
But these are, you know, the format really worked.
Yeah.
And really made it really achievable for people to have a car that they knew what they knew what it would cost to run.
Yeah.
They knew what it would cost to buy. The big parts were cost capped. The total car price was cost capped.
Yeah.
And it's just worked.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we'll probably take the next set of WRC regulations towards a more of a cost capped car, so that manufacturers can't run away with it, and we have to control it.
Because most current world champions definitely would have probably driven one of these, wouldn't they?
Yep.
Because there was a lot of people using these. So this is an engineless Stewart Grand Prix car. They later became Jaguar. They bought out. Stewart were bought out by Jaguar, weren't they? This is just a demo, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it would have just gone round to Formula 1 events and things and just sat there as a, I think number 16 was Rubens Barrichello, I think. I think he was driving for them back then. It's still, I mean, most of this would be
real stuff.
Real stuff, wouldn't it? It's just a rolling chassis.
Quite different to modern Formula 1 cars.
But it's not a rally car.
It's not a rally car, so...
So, last three. Now, I'll talk about that in a minute, because out of everything in this room, that is the best sounding car in here. That in anger, you can't beat that noise. Well, maybe we'll talk about that first. So this is 2010, Monte Carlo. Wasn't a round of the World Championship, was it, that year?
No, it was ERC, but back then was called IRC. Intercontinental Rally Challenge. So
this was your first car?
Yep.
You sent Mikko Hirvonen out there to do the rally as a bit of a shakedown type thing?
Yes, IRC was Super 2000 regulations.
Yeah.
Obviously WRC was non-turbo, naturally aspirated.
Just naturally aspirated screamer. That would almost... It was cut short, that class, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good base of class.
We were the last to the market with the car. We were the last ones to bring it in. We built it as kind of a lot of the running gear and design of this went into the WRC.
Right.
So we used it as a bit of a test case, and also we were able to sell some of these cars as a business case as well. So we sold about 60, I think, and I was in charge of sales of these. So that was the first big sales job I had. And there was a lot of interest in places like South Africa. We sold a lot of cars in their championship. Yeah. Some in IRC and others in British championships and things, Middle East.
There's a few going around. Then once the R5 came out, these were just
twice the price.
Couldn't keep up, could they?
Twice the price, naturally aspirated, so highly strung engines.
Really highly strung. One of your engines, that?
Yeah. But like 1500 Ks rebuilds, where you can do 2,500, 3,000 with a Rally 2 turbocharged, a lot more production based.
It's all just spinning so much faster, isn't it?
I mean, this was a World Rally car, effectively, but just a naturally aspirated one. And sadly, car manufacturers were going away from 2-litre engines to smaller engines, 1.6s turbos, so it wasn't really transferable to real world, and it just kind of self-petered out, really, which is a shame because...
They're a fast car, though.
But what you said earlier is quite interesting for me. The discussion, or the comment about noise is something that we've been talking about a lot between current OEMs in WRC, and that we feel that Rally 1 is good at the minute. Rally 1 noise is great. Rally 2 isn't good enough. It's too quiet. Yeah. And maybe as we go forward, we need to think about how can we somehow do something where people can have more engine options again.
Prime example is Andy Burton's 306.
A number of videos doing YouTube at the minute on that.
It's because it's just, you could hit, obviously most of the stages are where I live, Dovey Forest. I remember Dovey was a 13 or 15 miler. You could hear Andy Burton off the start line, and we were halfway through the stage. You'd hear him coming all the way through the forest, and your hairs on would go up, your hairs on your back of your neck.
You do it now, talking about it.
Yeah, it does a little bit. Yeah, it was just an awesome thing.
And I remember it as well. I used to watch him in Somerset stages, stuff like that, when I was living down there. And there's a guy in America that's just done a Subaru with a Ferrari engine in.
I've seen that. He's got a 360 engine in it.
Yeah, and but those stories and that noise.
On the start line half the time, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it sounds good.
It sounds awesome.
And the other thing is, the Ranger Raptor in Dakar is a naturally aspirated V8.
Is it?
And everyone talks about the noise.
Really?
So we're missing that again at WRC at the minute, and we need to think about that.
Probably need to get NASA back in one of them as well, don't you?
We'll do all right. We've got Carlos. We'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, you've got Carlos. Of course you have. So, this, just before we go off this must have been good for you for selling, because he went out on the first rally and won.
Again, we kept up that impossible record of winning on debut.
Yeah.
So again, new car for us, wins on its debut. Monte Carlo, one of the hardest rallies to win with all the weather conditions. It was a tricky year that year, but it was worth all the late nights to do it and to pull it off.
Definitely. So then we'll get onto that one in a minute. So you developed this. Then went into
Crossed a lot of it over to this.
Yeah, so this is a 2011 Sweden Rally winning car.
Yeah.
Again, Mikko Hirvonen. You had a top 3, so Mikko, Jari and Mads.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was a good event.
Yeah.
Were you on that event?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? No, 11 I wasn't. 13,
I struggle to remember quite how many I've been on.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
Kind of started doing WRC.
So I used to do
some events
a bit of the
2009.
fueling with Vital Equipment. Yeah. So you probably came to the fueling.
No, I was more
were you not an engineer?
Like running customer programs and things like that. So more kind of project management of the customer programs and
so like
sales of parts for
Autotech and people like that.
Yeah, I worked a lot with Ken and places like that. Sales for Super 2000. We take parts to events and sell them to customers.
Right, yeah.
We used to sell these to customers, so it was distributing parts, the invoicing when we got back, engineering support, and getting data looked at by our engineers for the teams. So a lot of kind of program support I was involved in. Yeah. But I started with 5 or 6 rallies a year, and I reckon from about 2014, 15, I started doing them all. Right. And I think I probably only missed a handful since then.
It's a hard thing to get away from as well. If you step away from it, you're like, I want to go back to the circus. It's like...
It is. I mean, you've got to love the sport.
Yeah.
And I think, well, clearly I do.
So you've always been a rally nut?
Yeah, that was all.
Are you local?
No, Bristol.
Bristol?
Yeah.
That is a long way from here.
Yeah, it is. So I did
You don't sound like a Bristolian.
No, I'm losing it now. I've been up here for too long. But I think I got into it through, my dad had a bit of an interest in rally. Okay. And then we went, and then it was on Channel 4 back at the time.
Not far from you.
Exactly, yeah. It was on Channel 4 back in the time.
Yeah,
and
was,
used to watch that all the time.
Yeah.
And then he took me to Rally GB for my birthday. as a birthday present. And the first car we ever saw was Colin, and we were both blown away by the speed.
In what was that?
In the McRae, in the Focus.
In
the year he had the massive accident and lost the championship.
That was 99? 2000?
2000.
Yeah.
And then that was what got me hooked. And then I became a Subaru fan, to be honest, Subaru for a long time.
Yeah.
And Dad had Subaru road cars, and he had a P1 for a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And so I really got into it.
Yeah.
And then I ended up managing to get some work experience at Mitsubishi at Rally Art at the time through someone at the motor club that I knew, Simon. And they offered me a job once I finished uni, but then sadly they folded as an OEM at the time before I finished uni. So I thought, that was my chance.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really know what to do post-uni. I was working on the farm again, and there was a job here to try for parts sales, and I thought I'd try it, and got to Manchester, thought I must be nearly there.
Oh yeah.
Another 2.5 hours later on, you get here, and I haven't left. And that was
that's
2007. So
have you ever been asked other manufacturers?
I have had a couple of discussions, opportunities, but honestly, I've always been very upfront with Malcolm and gone and told him.
Yeah, loyal.
And
well, he obviously it must be quite a privilege to be handed your position by Malcolm, he's never let go of it since. This is the first time he's let go of control of the rally team, isn't it?
Massive, for me. Again, I'm used to it now in some ways. So I've done it for quite a long time now. I've been here for a long time, but to have the opportunity to follow on from someone like Malcolm is
big shoes to fill,
huge
really,
in some ways. So I'm really lucky, and I'm very aware of how lucky I am to do the job I do. But that's also kind of why I don't want to stop doing it. And there has been other discussions, like I say, but I've always gone to him and said, I've been offered this. What do you think? And he would never say don't go. Yeah. But he would always say, one of them. He said, I think there's better things you can do than that offer. Yeah. And I believed him.
That's a good lesson there. Just be honest, isn't it? And
I'm always totally open with him, because the minute you're not open, you lose the trust with someone in some ways.
And that is the most important thing.
And when we're in this level, it's still his business. It's still his company. But he's been very good with me, and given me a lot of opportunity, and a lot of that through knowing that I just love rallying. And someone with the passion to follow the sport and do things for the sport is what he wanted to see, I think. So. Yeah. I have no interest in the other programs that we have here. Of course, I have an interest from a business perspective. It's important for the business.
Hence Bentleys and
and we can't do without these, and we need to expand as a business and get bigger and bigger. Yeah. But people ask me, do you not want to do this series or do the Dakar? I said, honestly, no. I want to do rally. That's all I'm interested in personally.
We've done that. So that car went on for a long time, didn't it? The Fiesta chassis. That was
2016 basically. Yeah. Before we went to the 17 variant.
And again, a lot of people driven that.
Lots.
And then another Finland car, Marcus Gronholm.
Yep.
Very famous driver.
Another
winner. The winner.
Yeah. And lots of technology in these. Active centre diffs and
fully active.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the cost of those just sadly got too much.
Just got too much. Yeah.
Which is why they went back in 2000. Well, these went right through till 2010. Yeah. And then we went to the more 11 car. The more standard-looking road car again. Yeah, that was a step. That was a difference when that step
came
backwards.
Out, it was like that's not. Yeah, I love it, but it's not as nuts as that, is it?
This doesn't look nuts now, but it was back then when you bought Focus. But this was, like I say, paddle shift, full active diffs,
even the seating position,
carbon clutches, everything. This was a proper bit of kit, and then that was a reset back to 1.6 turbo. More standard body parts, not as much aero allowed, gear lever as opposed to paddle shift. Yeah. Which again, we then went back to paddle shift after that. We added paddle shift.
Yeah, you had paddle shift later on, didn't you? Because I remember Robert Kubica had his paddle shift on the other side, didn't he? Yeah. Because of his hand.
So he had his big accident meant he wasn't able to use the shifter, so he had a pneumatic paddle shift, which we had to do a lot of work with the FIA to.
It was in, because I remember when we used to fuel the car, it was in the back, the pump, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was like a little
an add-on kit basically, but we did a lot of work with the FIA to adjust the speed of the change, so that it was to ensure that he wasn't getting an advantage over the others.
Yeah. He was quick, wasn't he?
He was very quick.
There's a lot to be said about Robert Kubica. He's very almost underrated unless you're involved in each sport. Like Formula 1 driver, he was a hell of a driver. Yeah. And rallying, he was one of the quickest out there.
One of the quickest.
He had a disability, didn't he?
Yeah, he was really strong.
And luck as well. I don't believe much in luck. I think you make your own luck. But some of the things that happened to him were out of his control, really, weren't they?
When you watch some of the testing videos that you can go and find now, you see how quick he was.
Yeah.
Everybody used to say he's so fast.
Yeah.
He just struggled a little bit with differing grip levels and things like that, and not knowing the experience of the rallies.
Yeah.
And it was a shame, but then he got his chance to go back into F1, so he left rally.
And he took that,
and now he's more endurance and LMDH and.
What is that? A wind tunnel car?
That's a wind tunnel model of the 2011 car. So quite cool little thing.
That is ace.
It's
I want that on
scale replica
in my living room. Bet your kids would like that.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of that's now been replaced with computer design.
Yeah.
So they still do have wind models. I saw the Puma one in America when we were over there at one point, and they still have the use to do it, but they can complement it now with so much more data from computers.
That's pretty cool. So there we are. That is a tour of the showroom. Rich, thank you again. I'd like to have a quick look, if we can, at the 99 car.
Yep.
Is there anything else dotted about? Or?
We'll see what we can find. See if we can find anything else.
Let's go and find something else. So we're not completely finished now. I think I need a drink of water because my mouth's dry from talking rubbish for ages. So yeah, join us in a minute. So this is quite special because they're testing 2 Puma Rally1 cars. One's a test car. Is that your only test car?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the test car, and this is Josh's car.
Yeah, for
Josh's car that's going to Safari. We'll have a quick look around. We won't get in the way of the engineers, but we'll have a quick look around.
So you got kind of we got a 3-day test planned.
Yeah.
For our Kenya test, which we're doing in Cumbria.
Yeah.
But,
so testing for Kenya in Cumbria. That says something about the British weather, doesn't it?
So we do a rollout here just to do a systems check and things.
Yeah.
And then we've got an actual entry car here. So it's kind of looking a bit wild at the minute, like max ride height, but we'll do the setup here while we can. And then
what will you be looking for? Because obviously you can't, on the track, are you just looking at mapping and things like that?
Yeah, systems checks to make sure gearbox is working, all the data looks normal, engines are looking normal. Engines are often linked, so they have to do you only really allowed 2 engines for the entire season. So just
they're all sealed?
Yeah, all sealed.
FIA sealed?
Yeah, and they'll just run in the clutches, gearboxes, things like that.
So will you bed a clutch in before it goes out, or will you put a brand new clutch in?
It depends on how much the last one's done, to be honest.
Right.
So
you just measure it.
Each shakedown be varying, and
so
then
this is the biggest. We need to film this. This is like a chimney. So it won't be rallying like that, but that's about the sound, isn't it? Because you've got sound restrictions here.
Yeah, I mean the actual car with no restrictor and no silencer is okay.
Yeah.
But if we keep underneath a certain decibels, it doesn't register it registers as C day, like our lowest specification day. So when you see a lot of the videos of the cars on the track, you see these big silencers, just to take the edge off the noise.
Does that have a performance issue? Will it slightly back pressure?
It's a little bit, obviously, but it's not enough to cause a problem.
It won't affect anything.
But if we're doing proper mapping and full spec engine work, we probably wouldn't run that. We run a full car properly.
It looks pretty mad, doesn't it? It looks like a buggy or something.
Yeah, so a nice little system that can go to the rear boot pins and keep it in place. Yeah. And the lads have just put it on.
That's quite nicely designed, that. It's not bodged on, is it?
They don't like to do anything with a bodge here. They like to full design everything. So, but luckily, we have this track behind us.
Yeah, you've got the track.
2.5K circuit.
Will that ever be used for track days or anything like that, do you think?
There is opportunities to do things like that. We can't do races as such.
No.
We're tending to keep it in a minute more for the hope of usage by OEMs and other race teams or other projects we've got. It's just a great facility to have, that you can build the cars, check them, put them on the track, out, and away you go. There's
you don't have to travel anywhere, do you really? And if you've got a problem, you just go in there, go to the parts bin, get it out.
One of the main things the company's got, which is important and special about it, is we can do everything on site: engineering, fabrication, machining, building, testing, the full thing under one roof, basically.
A lot of the boys are local as well, aren't they?
Yeah, Gary, who's driving the car at the moment, is local. Been here since for 20 odd years. Yeah. And there's a good percentage that are local, and that's important to Malcolm as well. Is local business, local employees.
No,
and he's a big employer. We're 185 people now.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's a big animal.
You've got rally team, test team, Dakar team, people in the workshop.
Workshop, like I said earlier, engine department's huge with all the different projects we're working with, parts department, engine support, purchase ordering, goods out. Sadly, Brexit, etc., has meant we've had to employ more people for the shipping, the paperwork, the carnets. Logistics is a full-time department.
That must be a big hit, that.
Brexit.
We're not going to get too political.
We're not getting political, but I will say it's done nothing positive for us. And it's a real shame. And we lost a lot of foreign employment. We used to have, at one point, we had 15, 20 different nationalities working for us, and now it's so hard to do. It's a real shame, and I hope they find some compromise that allows us to get back there, because it was really nice to have different people from different countries, different kind of lifestyles and views on things working in the team. It was a really good environment. But
so we'll just have a quick look around these cars, and then we'll have a look at maybe the 99 car, and then we'll let you get back. We'll have some lunch.
So 22 car, back to non-hybrid now.
So this is current. This is what's happening now.
Yeah, and that's. Just going to take a picture of the snorkel for sponsors so you can see what we've done.
Ready for safari.
So the only event where we run the snorkel. Non-hybrid now, couple of changes. Obviously the side vents that were the cooling for the hybrid system have gone. They've just been covered over there. And there was on the back there was a cooling fan. Yeah,
there was little fans in the
and a whole cooling system. There was a big one in the centre at the back, and a whole cooling system for the hybrid unit, which is now gone. So it's a lot more simpler at the back, a lot more simpler inside. All of the carbons that would go from the ducting into the cooling system for the hybrid are gone.
I bet you had to keep that cool as well, didn't you?
It wasn't too bad, but in the real hot rallies it sometimes got close. But we were pretty good, to be honest. But apart from that, very much carryover from what we had previously. But when you look inside, I think one of the biggest things for me is how much everything is in now. So you look at the edge of the seat compared to the cage.
And how close the driver and co-driver sit together. They're right in the middle of the car, aren't they?
So basically FAA pushed everything internally. So that side impact was the biggest concern. So these going to space frame, this isn't a production chassis, this is a space frame with a body built around it. Allowed us to have two main hoops. So you've got your main hoop like you would see in a normal rally car, but there's a second one behind as well. Just double the strength at the side, basically. I think it was another 20-30% safer on the crash tests. So it was a real big step, but has caused a lot of issues in how you package everything. How you
put everything in,
there's a lot to get in there,
So any other mods for Safari? Just a scoop,
ride
suspension?
We're a lot higher on the ride height. This little antenna here is different to what we've seen before. We started running these in Monty. So this is a live data transmission. So data goes via this into the plane that the WRC have, and then it's streamed back to the teams, so we can see live data from the car and the stages, and that will eventually.
Each team have that.
And it will eventually go into the TV coverage. And the ability for us to know, see alarms or issues with the cars while they're on the stage, which we don't have the ability to do now. So we got some more promotional things happening as well, but otherwise they are very similar. We don't really have any jokers left to play, so in terms of styling and aero, it will be the same this year, really. But it's the package we know works. So.
I always like to see a white test car as well.
Everyone loves a white test car.
Everyone loves a white test car. They're even making models of white test cars now. That's how much people like it.
And then a little nod to Cumbria in the livery. Which was added by the graphic designer, which I wasn't told about till I saw it. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But again, it's what we were saying. There's a lot of proud local people of where they're working and what they're doing. So.
Another car, just in a different place, a different part of the estate. So this is a 99 Safari winning car, debut season. And brand new car basically. This was built from scratch.
The first car that Malcolm and M Sport kind of designed themselves.
Designed and developed.
And brought. And
was it a Gunter car? Was that?
Yeah, it would have been.
So Gunter Steiner, who you'll know from Formula One, he was on this project. So one question I wanted to ask, I don't know how many people have asked it, the spoiler, you only ran that for a year, so is there a load of these in the attic somewhere? Because Is it because that was never homologated on a road car or anything?
No.
So what was the story about that?
I don't know why they changed it, to be honest. I'd have to do some digging and maybe leave you a comment somewhere. But I think there was, again, it was at a point where there was a lot of design work going on, a lot of differences, and you know, it was when rallying was huge again, so there was a lot of money being spent on things, and I would imagine constant development was a reason to go towards it, or whether there was a change in regulation. I don't actually know.
Because it ran for a year and then they went to the little spoiler then. Maybe it looked more like the road car or something, but yeah, that was one thing that I was... do you have spares for these anymore? Or?
No, so we only have from 2006 onwards. So
Paul Ben's got a lot of stuff down the road?
Yeah, we sold the remaining spares to a customer in Sweden who bought it all. But you know, it's some ways it's sad to see stuff go. Yeah. But also there's a point where, on a business perspective, it doesn't become worthwhile to keep all the stock and the space for when we have new projects, and then you end up building new space at a cost. You know, when ultimately,
if it was me, I would be hoarding everything. That's...
Malcolm does like to hoard stuff. I do remind him about that. When he keeps trying to find space for new stuff, I say, well, there is some older stuff we could maybe do something with. Yeah. So it's a hard one, because motorsport is difficult because you're building bespoke stuff for very small projects. So what do you do with it all? But you need it when you're running the project, but then afterwards, sometimes there isn't a use case for it. So
it's hard to throw a good thing away, isn't it?
And some of the stuff we have is so heavily engineered with, you know, this was allowing, you know, back in the day, you're allowed titanium and all sorts. And
well, these are, that bar behind there, that's titanium, isn't it? Yeah. And a lot of bits on these.
And then it was outlawed due to cost and things. And obviously new manufacturing technologies, you can get such good strength in different ways now. Yeah,
carbon and...
Yeah, and I suspect in the next 10, 12 years, you know, we can already print metal. We don't, but you can, the technology exists. You know, at some point, hopefully get to a point where stock is less because you can produce the parts very quickly.
There's a bit of a safari theme going on, because it's safari car over there, safari car here. You like the safari stuff? This is a bit of a McRae shrine.
Yeah, I mean, Colin was obviously a very big part of the team and the history of M Sport as well. And Malcolm rebuilt this car after Colin passed away, so it was kind of a...
So it's brand new, basically?
Yeah, kind of a tribute to him. It hasn't been started for a long time.
No.
So we'd have to do a bit of work before we start it again, but...
It'd be good to see M Sport do something in Goodwood with get all the cars out.
Yeah, I think there's maybe some interesting opportunities in the near future with the historic regulations changing, and a lot of the cars that we built are getting back towards being usable.
I bet that's weird, isn't it? It's coming back round already.
Yeah.
Because a lot of Imprezas now, I've been gathering a few Imprezas because they're historic legal now. Yeah. And there was not long ago they were worthless, and then they're coming up to people wanting them again.
And you think it's not that long ago.
Yes, well, it is. Yeah.
Sadly, it is. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a bit of a nod to the transition between the old building and the workshop, and a bit of celebration of Colin, what he achieved, and the laurels from the championships we won.
Yeah. No, it's good. So we'll probably end the episode in this little Colin McRae tribute. So
nice place to end it.
It's a nice place to end. Yeah. Firstly, thank you, Rich. I really appreciate you letting us come here and film.
No problem.
And spending the time to actually come with us. That's amazing. Really good. Thank you everyone for watching. Like and subscribe. You've got to say that. That is just a standard thing to say. Like, subscribe, comment. Anything you think we've got wrong, comment and let me know. I'm quite open to all that. And yeah, hopefully we'll cross paths again somewhere.
Exactly.
Do something else.
Always welcome.
And I've said, if you need anything, maybe we'll film me doing a job for Rich. I don't know. Just carrying some boxes out the attic or something, or getting rid of all the old Focus.
That's what I started with. You never know where it might lead.
We need to go and have a look in the bin and see what they got. Anything in the skip, we'll take home with us. Yeah, thank you again, and thank you, Rich. That's perfect. Leaving M Sport now. After what could be said, hopefully one of the best videos we put out to date, and what an experience. Yeah, there's some things that we've done now we couldn't film because it's quite top secret, like looking around the factory and that. Yeah, it's pretty amazing, so thank you, Rich. Yeah, this is probably a little just personal message for you, Rich. Thank you very much. And yeah, let's go and have a cup of tea, sit down in the cafe and digest what we've just done. What do you think, Chris?